Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I am so excited to have as my guest, finally, Angela Nibbs. And let me tell you about Angela. Angela is a powerhouse of strategic communication with over 2 decades of robust public relations experience, renowned for her prowess in strategic planning, compelling storyline crafting, and meticulous program management. Angela has been the driving force behind hundreds of companies, propelling them towards their business objectives and architecting their communication narratives with strategic precision. Hailing from the heart of Silicon Valley, Angela's influence extends far beyond her rich portfolio of clients. Her deep-rooted connections with the Silicon Valley influencers have made her a trusted advisor and confidant to some of the nation's most influential business executives, venture capitalists, and journalists. I know you want to know more about Angela Nibbs. Thank you very much. So you remember that name. But first, we're going to welcome her to the podcast. Welcome, Angela Nibbs.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And thank you so much for the kind introduction.
You're
really
very
nice.
welcome. So we talked about Silicon Valley, but we do want to get more details. Where do you call home?
So I live in a little town called Sausalito, just over the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. It's lovely here. I've been here for close to 2 years from San Francisco and originally from New York. So
yes. So let's just talk a little bit about where we gave this great background as to where you are today, but what led you to PR? Was promoting other people always a desire in your heart, or how did that come about?
You know, if you ask my mom, she will tell you I've always had the gift of gab. And it took many forms. But I think somewhere at some point, I've always felt strongly about advocating for people, ideas, companies, brands. And it's no wonder why I find myself in Silicon Valley, because there's so many new things, new technologies, and new ways of doing things that I get excited about these innovations and helping founders, companies, brands kind of tell that story to a broader audience.
Awesome. That's so great. And it is pretty exciting. It's funny. It's a wonder that I didn't go into PR, because I love when I find something that I love, I tell everyone about it. And I always have to say, and I'm not getting paid for that. It's not although I do have an anti-aging business that I love, and I do tell everyone, and they're thinking, oh God, here she goes again. But I mean, when you do love a movie or a food or a bar or a restaurant, you tell people about it. And sometimes you're not so great at doing that. And that's why you need a PR person like Angela.
Yeah. It's funny. I always say a big reason why some people like myself go into PR is they like to tell the story, not talk about themselves. So again, I think somewhere inside of me, and also, I've got a legal background as well. I've always been fond of telling stories, persuading people, getting people excited and interested, and interested enough to act, whether it's to read a story or buy a product or come to an event or anything like that. So it's just part of my DNA, for better or worse.
All right. So in your past experience, and you mentioned as an attorney, it really informed your strategic approach, which I was a project manager and did large projects. And so I appreciate strategic planning and storyline crafting. And I think storyline crafting is often, even the strategic part, I think as entrepreneurs, where people kind of get tripped up because they have this passion, they have this idea, but that's all they know what to do with it. Beyond there, they're kind of at a loss. So how can you help them navigate through their journey as an entrepreneur?
Sure. That's a great question. And even as an entrepreneur myself, I think first is realizing what you're good at. If you're great at, developing this great technology, that's where you should focus your attention. And how PR can come in, and how a good, PR strategist comes in, is really trying to understand what the business objectives and goals are for that company, brand, product, person. And then really thinking about their audience. So, and even within the same company or client, right, there can be different audiences that you're targeting. So some folks are trying to raise funding, so they're targeting VCs. Other folks are trying to hire or poach, employee candidates from a competitor. So that's another type of stakeholder communication. Others are looking, maybe they're a company or a brand that has been around for a long time, and they're looking to reach a new audience and a new demographic. So those are the types of questions when I'm first speaking with a new client, whether it's a startup or a company that's been around for a long time, is really trying to understand and get into their mindset of what they're trying to achieve. And then backing into that, how can communications and PR support those goals, right? And that can take, in and of itself, can take many forms. It could be earned media coverage, in the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, or an important trade publication. Or it could be about getting that person on stage with speaking opportunities, or byline articles placed in, specific outlets. So more like thought leadership. Another piece that I think is really important in building credibility is, getting acknowledgement for your innovation. So we, at my company, Maven, we have a very robust awards strategy. So figuring out what are the best awards, what's going to get the right eyeballs. And we've had some great success with that for our clients.
Awesome. That's excellent. And I think one of the things you said early on needs to just be reinforced or touched on. And that's, if you are that person, the creative, the innovator, the person who birthed this baby of your entrepreneur journey, you may not be the best person to actually promote it. And I know that's sometimes where I come in to help with speaking and training, but you want someone to feel that passion and understand and hear the pain and say, oh God, that's the pain or problem I have, and be able to then respond to it. And so how, as a PR person, can you take that pain, that problem, and the relationship you have with the client to be able to message in a way that people will definitely say, I want, I need, give me.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's important in that dynamic is building trust with
Mm.
the entrepreneur and the founder. Like you said, this is their blood, sweat, and tears of many, many years and lots of sacrifice. So um, trying to connect and understand everything that went into the product or company or idea,
Mhm.
and really listening. And from there, right, that kind of authentic connection and that authentic communication, that's where I get to dive in and say, okay, this is how we're going to tell this story. This is what's interesting. This is what's unique. This is what I think is going to resonate, and get the results that you're looking for. And that's really, that early stage is really fun. I really enjoy
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
because that's where you get to create,
Yeah.
create brand. Earlier in my career, there were there have been many times actually where a founder or founders come in, they just got their VC money, and they're like, okay, I got to launch, and coming up with the narrative and the story, and seeing that then in print, in various outlets, that's great. And in this particular client that I'm thinking of, they ended up getting acquired. They were a beauty e-commerce site, early days when it was still kind of new, and they got acquired by one of the big beauty brands. And I'll never forget, in the story in the Wall Street Journal about the acquisition was that, a sentence from that original messaging that we came up with,
Awesome.
years before. So, that's really rewarding to see. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's just a good reminder of how important it is to understand and to create, take the time to create a narrative,
Yeah.
in the early going.
Yeah. And from my perspective, I always tell people, the words matter, but how you deliver the words matter even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Different executives have different,
Yes.
skill sets.
Yes, I
But
understand
coaching and
exactly.
communicating. Yes, I can tell. I can tell. But we try to do a lot of role playing, kind of mock interviews, to kind of get the client in the right frame of mind. I think the biggest, most folks are pretty good. I think the biggest challenge for executives, whether it's a startup or veteran CEO, is taking a few minutes before an interview to just focus and say, okay, who am I talking to? What are the messages that I'm trying to convey? What are the three things that I want to come through from this interview? So we try to build in that discipline with calendaring, like putting in like that 15 minutes of just, okay, let's focus time before we get on the Zoom or the phone call, or, nowadays, luckily, in the IRL meetings. So, it's a frame of mind, but also, coaching, a lot of coaching.
Yeah. So how important is telling a story when addressing your audience, and why is that important?
I mean, this is the bottom line. And it goes back to some of the things I was saying earlier. Really understanding not only the business objectives, right, but what is the why, and why would someone care, right, about this, so that they're going to buy or subscribe, or whatever action you want them to take. So this is crucial. This is the foundation upon which everything else that you do in a successful communication strategy is based upon. Oftentimes we'll come in and, we'll see that a client has done this just happened recently. A client has done some amazing stuff over here and kind of over here, but there hasn't been a thread to pull it all together. And being able to do that, have that perspective and to bring that in and do that is a lot of fun, and can be it's fun when it's successful. It's fun always, but it's also fun when it's successful.
Yeah, and very helpful. So describe a specific instance where your connections with the Silicon Valley influencer community significantly influenced the success of a PR campaign.
Yeah. There's a lot, but one that comes to mind, we're working with a startup. They were at that point perceived as the second runner. So there was someone else in their space. We believed and they believed that my client had better technology, better partnerships, and all that. And fundamental to our strategy was, well, I think if we can just get these guys and girls in front of the right reporters, they'll see that. So it sounds like a simple thing, but we kind of organized a media dinner with like a media influencer VIP dinner. And we were able to secure attendance from this client's very high profile, very well-known investor. And so we knew we had a great draw, but we wanted to do more than that, right? Because that was just one part of their story. So we recommended to the client, what if we, bring in some of your partners to be at the, so really providing an incredible level of access to some bold-faced names in tech. So, and we had it around a theme. And so there was kind of conversation, but we had, I want to say 20 reporters attending this dinner, and anyone that is in PR can understand how challenging it is to get one reporter to commit to something in person. We had 20. It was actually too big. I won't do a dinner that big ever again. It was just kind of too hard to facilitate. But we were able to build relationships there and, connect the founders and kind of their vision, and to get it straight from the horse's mouth, as people say, worked really, really well. So it was a combination of, that VC, that investor, getting him, and then I think everything else kind of fell into place after that.
Awesome.
And we were able to get great coverage for the client,
which is a plus.
Yes.
So you had a wide range of clients, as you were mentioning, from tech giants to startups and consumer brands. So how do you adjust your strategies to individually, uniquely meet the needs of each of these diverse portfolio groups?
So I think there are two important things here. One is there is a common theme. We have PR'd law firms, maker platforms, creator economy, startups, fintech, legal tech. But the common theme is coming up with a narrative and being able to tell a story. And I think because we have such a diverse portfolio of clients and experience, we're able to almost bring a beginner's mind to each client and to each situation. And because of that, it opens up, it opens up more potential, more ideas, different ways of thinking. One instance, we were PRing a very prestigious law firm that had built some really cool tech. And, we did the launch and kind of all the regular things. And, we're doing some research for another client, totally different, industry, on an award. And it dawned on me, I was like, why don't we submit these guys, this law firm, to Fast Company Most Innovative Company Awards? I bet you they've never had a law firm submit. And, we had to pitch it to the client. And they were like, that's that's a cool idea. And fast forward, they were on the list that year. So, and it was the
Oh,
first time for a law
awesome.
firm. So, I think having, multi experience in different industries just gives you a broader view, which at
Yeah.
the end of the day is going to benefit the client.
Mhm.
They don't, they may not always, buy the idea. In this case, they did, and it worked out. But I think I see it as a strength versus a weakness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
for sure.
sure. So, what are some of the most common misconceptions about public relations that you've encountered, and how do you take steps to debunk them?
Yeah, there are a lot of misconceptions, I think, about PR and what we actually do on a
Press
daily
releases,
basis.
that's all you do, right?
That's all we do, press releases and parties. I think,
Mhm.
we've had some interns when I'm interviewing them, like, we're not going to be planning parties. Like we might, we'll do some events, but this isn't going to be, Samantha Jones planning parties. And I've definitely done my fair share of those types of events. But what I think people, most people don't realize is those events and everything is really tied to an objective and a strategy. Um, so, that's a big misconception, is that we're about party planning. I think the other giant one that still persists even today is that, PR people have a proverbial Rolodex. We just call up our contacts.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, yes, Angela, I've been." So relationships absolutely matter. They definitely get your foot in the door. But you know, at the end of the day, it's really about understanding if that's the right reporter in the first place, what they're
Yeah.
interested, and then how can your client be a resource to them. That's how you get a story. It's not through, me picking up my phone and calling up my journalist friends. So even today, when I'm doing, speaking to a potential new client in a new business pitch, the question comes up. So who do you know? It's like, I know a lot of people. I've been doing this for a long time, but here's what's really going to help you win. And that's,
Yeah.
developing a strategy and a good narrative to support that strategy.
So, is there a particular challenge that you faced in your career as a PR person? And how did
Can you
you
hear me?
navigate through it? Yes. Can you hear me?
Okay, I can't hear you. Hang on, something
Oh.
happened. What should I do? All right, fingers crossed.
Can you share a particular challenge that you faced in your PR career and how you navigated through it? What lessons did you learn in that experience?
I love this question. So the biggest challenge that I faced in my career was June 2020 during the pandemic. I was working at a boutique agency in San Francisco, and like many people, I got laid off. It was, in the height, we didn't have a vaccine. We didn't know what was going on. The economy was just, so it was very scary. And for whatever reason, in that moment, I literally in that moment said, you know what, this is the time to go out on my own and start a business. And a week to the day of getting laid off, pitched and won our first client. So myself and a couple people on my team were also let go, and I rallied the troops and we pitched and won. They are still a client today, 3 years later.
Wow.
And we started with a team of 3. Now we're 10.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I think the lesson for me was, at various points earlier in my career, I had experimented with consulting and going out on my own, but I always had one foot in and one foot out. And in that moment, it was very clear to me, crystal clear, that this was the path forward and that I was never going to look back. And I'm happy to say I still am thrilled with that decision. I say, getting laid off in the middle of a global pandemic is probably one of the best things that ever happened to me career-wise. So, yeah,
That's awesome.
it's been wild.
I always say that the pandemic really was God saying, y'all need to hold off here and take a breath because we were going too fast. It is time now for us to do our rapid fire. And I only have really time for one, but I'm going to throw in one here. So what are 2 lessons about leadership you've learned to date? Maybe leadership and confidence that you've learned to date in these previous years, but maybe just in these last 3 years of you going out on your own.
Yeah, I think the first one is to listen to that little voice. Listen to that little voice, because she is telling you what you need to hear. You just need to be ready to listen and to accept that. The second leadership, well, there's many, of course, but the other one is you got to be flexible. You got to be flexible. You can have the best plan, strategy, technology, but you have to, things happen, things change, and the best plan is to kind of say, okay, let's be flexible and figure it out and have poise and grace in the moment to navigate out of whatever that situation is. And that's something that I don't always do perfectly, but it's certainly something that I strive to do every day. I
think early on, I got married at 21 and I planned my wedding, and people were like, oh, why all that stress and all this? And I said, because if anything goes wrong, I know who to blame. and therefore I didn't have any stress. It was the most fun time I had, because oh, well, I missed that. You can't yell at anybody.
All right.
There you go.
It's liberating. It's liberating.
Let's keep on dancing and having a good time.
Cheers to that. Cheers to that.
All right. It's time now for me to share my screen. So if you have been listening and you haven't been taking notes, I always tell you, shame on you, but go grab that paper pencil right now so you can take down the information for Angela. I do remind you that it will be on my website, the findyourleadershipconfidence.com website, as well as my YouTube channel. And you can get a screenshot of all this information now or then. All right, so you can reach her, as she mentioned, her business is Maven, and her website is https://Maven, maven-pr.com. Again, maven-pr.com. She's on LinkedIn at Angela Nibbs, her name, easy to find, and Twitter at media_Maven. We did have a discussion as to whether I should start changing this to X, but we're not going to try to confuse things later. We'll wait till somebody complains. But right now, we're going to just say you can reach her at media-Maven at the X or Twitter or whatever you want to call that location. I'm going to let her talk to you what she can find when you go to both her website and LinkedIn. Angela, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so definitely check out my website. It has a little bit more about my background and some of the types of clients and industries that we work with. if you're more interested in, my take on current topics or some of the work that we're doing now, I would definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat with you directly if you have any questions about a product that you're launching or questions about your current PR strategy. Please feel free to shoot me an email or send me a DM. I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. Again, so you can go to LinkedIn at Angela Nibbs, or you can go to her website, maven-pr.com. All right. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. And I do, again, believe that PR is something that we often, like marketing and, I don't know, finances, to avoid whenever we start in business. And I could say it because I'm as much to blame as all. But it is really something that can make your life easier. I know I'm having an upcoming summit and I have a PR person that says, here, I have this person. And so instead of me making 5 calls, all of a sudden the PR person is able to connect me to 4 people. How nice is that? And if you're on the other side of that, how nice is it to get a call from the PR person saying, hey, I got you booked on a summit. Easy peasy,
Easy
so thanks so
peasy.
much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and talking with you today.
Awesome. And as I remind everyone, life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.